Ready for the interview, and if you get a cue live on the laptop, watch what I'm gonna do. Welcome to the show, let them know we got a point of view. Hey, yo, let's have a combo. Say what you feel, be real, that's the motto. Real talk pronto, Dr. D, PhD, hit an intro. Hold up, wait, gotta be social. Network global, a home for the local. Gotta be social. Network global, a home for the local.
Simon, we are back again. I'm eating.
You are. Well, what are you eating?
Nuts,
you got
man.
some nuts, yeah.
Some nuts, yeah.
Got some bird food. Got some nuts and seeds.
A little bit nutty. Simon,
I was
coming to
just
see
eating
you soon, man.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Do you fear this? Are you afraid of this?
The way you said that was very threatening. I felt, yeah.
Coming to see you soon.
Like one of those really stereotypical movie stalker villains.
Yeah.
You won't see me, but I see you.
I do a Rambo like Murdoch. I'm coming for you. One of my favorite ones.
Yeah. Oh,
I am coming to see you.
Thank you for completing that sentence. I am coming. Pause. To see you.
To see you, yeah. Yeah, it's in my email. Everything goes through my email. If it's in my email, it gets done. I have a note popping up, book my trip to see Simon.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, no, we're excited. Shannon and I. I'm not speaking of myself in third
you
person.
Don't care.
In third person plural. No, I'm saying we, as in Shannon and myself. I think some of my kids are excited too because they know what we do. My son Moses, my other kids, they're not. My kid, he just, when it comes up, my kids think what I do is cool, right?
Okay.
And when they do listen to my music, they normally always really like it. They like the songs and everything like that. But when you're too close to something and so you don't appreciate it as much.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this a little bit before. Yeah. It's actually a good topic, honestly.
Yeah. Because every parent, I think, has to deal with that with their own children, because as a parent, you want your children to just love you and what you do and all these things and be interested in you because you are that way with them. And so
what do you mean it's not reciprocal? Reciprocal?
Yeah. Oh man, boy, is it not. So my kids, the point I'm making is that my kids, that my kids appreciate me and what I do, but they don't sit around, listening to my podcasts and records and things like that. However, my oldest son, Moses, he actually listens to Arbiters of Bad Taste, and he's very interested in our conversation. So I think he's going to be excited for you to come visit as well.
Shout out to Moses. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Shannon rarely even listens to our stuff, but that's what I mean. That's just the way. Like Shannon doesn't sit around listening to my records.
Yeah.
She appreciates them. She appreciates, in her opinion, I'm doing normally more interesting and better quality stuff than the average, musician is doing. But she still doesn't sit around and just listening to my stuff. So
yeah,
it's just that's just the way of it. I'm sure things are similar in your household. Your wife isn't hanging on your every word.
No, she's not listening to any of this. I'm telling you right now. I don't. It's not like she goes, "Oh, I should," and I'll tell her certain episodes. She's like, "Oh, I should listen to that." Yada yada yada, and it doesn't happen. But then she'll listen to NPR or something every day. Sorry, honey. It's true though.
He said with zero emotion in his voice.
Right. How things are done or whatever, podcasts or all these whatever. It's fine when you're too close to something. I try with your kids, you be really, like you said, you're really into what I'm trying to be into what Rosie's into, her art, really celebrate it. but not everybody's into what daddy's doing. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, that's
oh,
true.
thanks, Dad. It's great.
Yeah. I had a conversation just this morning that I think you'll be very interested in.
Okay.
A friend of mine who grew up very conservative Christian, and I think they would still define themselves uh, in that way generally. Although I think they themselves are a much more progressive-minded individual, but they still affiliate with that religious group. That's their culture that they are still a part of and everything. So, but they contacted me this morning, and they have a 7-year-old boy who likes to grow his hair long and paint his nails, and they were just asking me if, because they know that I grew up very conservative Christian household, so they're asking me if I was allowed to do that when I was young, or if I had to wait till I was an adult to do those things. And gladly, I was able to tell them that my parents, while they probably didn't always like it when I would do certain things like paint my nails and dye my hair, and I didn't do that until high school, really. But they would just shrug their shoulders and just be like, "Hey, he's gonna be who he's gonna be," I guess,
Yeah.
kind of thing. I have no idea what kind of conversations they had behind closed doors, but they never treated me differently just because my hair was a bright poppy pink and my nails were sparkly pink and I had fake tattoos of butterflies on my shoulder. It was like they didn't even really address it that I remember. But so I was telling her that, and she was saying that she feels like, and this is where I thought you'd find this very interesting, that there's just a lot of people in her cultural group that in her words, she said, are either overtly or covertly, taking an interest in her son's behavior, her 7-year-old son's hair length and nail color, and so in her words, she felt like there's a hypermasculinity going on in her culture, and that push to make boys be men,
Yeah.
And
what does that even mean?
That's the thing.
It's the rub.
Like, yeah, I was telling her, I think I realized very intuitively, I could have never put it into words, of course, when I was young, but that girls like a tender boy.
Yeah.
They like a tender, and I don't mean necessarily somebody who's just an absolute, sissy crybaby. I mean somebody who's just in touch with, I guess what they would consider their effeminate side, And anyway, we were just having a laugh about it, and I said, I just, and it was funny because just yesterday I was listening to a podcast that was talking about asking the question if Christian fundamentalists actually follow the teachings of Jesus, which is really a funny question.
It's a
when
great
you say
question.
I'm a Christian fundamentalist, so you're like, yeah, but do you follow the teachings of Jesus? No. And of course they would say yes, of course. They'd be
it's
like,
a
oh
no,
yeah. Yeah, we're the fundamentalists, and it's like, yeah, I think you lost the message,
Well, Jesus is a complicated figure to fundamentalists because it does not match with fundamentalism.
No.
That's why I think a lot of fundamentalists are trying to, this sounds weird, but like kind of push Jesus out of the picture. They're like, well, it really wasn't, this meekness and the talking to people, I don't know about that. It's like, well, you actually don't, he's too complicated. He's a complicated figure for fundamentalists.
So we have this real problem, when it comes to what and I didn't come up with this idea. I think it was the scholar James Tabor who I first heard it from, and I can't even remember when. But that is to actually read the New Testament chronologically.
Mm.
Because if you do that, you start with the epistles of Paul. And then eventually you get to like the Gospels and some of the other epistles, and then eventually probably writings attributed to John would probably be kind of last chronologically there. But anyway, if you do that, you see how Paul invents Christianity. And then you see how certain aspects of the gospel are influenced by Paul. Certain aspects of the gospels seem to be a rebuttal of Paul. And then if you get to somebody like James, it's a complete rebuttal of Paul.
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, so you feel like James and the actual words coming out of Jesus's mouth in most of the gospels, they're mostly in agreement. But then Paul is writing a different gospel, and he calls it his gospel. And he says he didn't get it from man, which implies that he didn't get it from eyewitness testimony.
Right.
Instead, he got it, what he claims, like revelation. But
yeah,
I mean, really, what are we talking about? We're saying he invented something.
Yes. Yes.
because how do you get it revealed to you by Jesus, and yet what you're saying is in direct contrast
yeah,
to what Jesus said and what other people who were there when Jesus was there.
Right.
Because none of the gospel authors were there.
No.
They're getting it secondhand. Tradition claims that the Gospel of James is written by somebody who was there, Jesus's own biological brother.
Yeah.
So if you take that into account, and if you choose to believe that tradition, then you say, well, James is openly contradicting Paul.
Yeah.
And so who are you going to trust?
Right.
Somebody who has walked and talked with the actual Jesus, or somebody who claims without, and this is another thing though, that I always like to remind people, there are no other witnesses to Paul's experiences.
Right.
With the other gospels and things like that, you at least have 12 disciples who were there.
Yeah.
A biological sibling who was there in James. So you have at least, and Luke specifically, he's saying that he's collecting these stories basically, and from probably sometimes secondhand, third-hand witnesses, but maybe even some firsthand. We don't know.
We don't know. Yeah.
But Paul isn't doing any of that. Paul's just saying, this is revealed to me by the Spirit.
Yes.
Nobody taught it to me. Oh, well, I wonder why what you say sounds so So anyway, I just think that's a really interesting approach to reading the New Testament, the Christian Bible.
Yeah, I like it.
To read things chronologically and see how they really panned out, and see how you don't even have to take the stance that, because I know Christians hate it when you take the stance that the Bible disagrees with itself. You don't even have to take that stance. You can just see how thought evolved.
Yes. Most definitely. And it's still a problem in the sense that I kind of mirror this with the, like, I feel like, I'm going to say again, Jesus is a complicated figure for fundamentalists, especially fundamentalist pastors. But isn't this pretty similar to the time of Jesus? The people he was hardest on were the religious leaders during the time.
Yeah.
They were often some of the most crooked people, and who you thought should have been the more, put together people and more loving. And they were always the ones who were like threatened by Jesus all the time. Sounds a lot like today to me. It really does, actually.
It does, actually. To your point, and just to expand upon your point, the Sanhedrin and,
Mhm.
religious leadership, these would have been the literate people. These would have been the people who are reading from the Torah scroll at synagogue. These are the people who, to the point you're saying, they know what the Torah says, and yet they're still leading everybody astray. And if anybody thinks it's any different today, I mean, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up, because the pastors in your Christian church today, yeah, a lot of them went to seminary and they know shit that they're not telling you.
Right.
And
No doubt about it.
they're not telling you that because they know you'll probably leave.
100%, Simon. 100%. And it's just they're at odds with the actual teachings, and then some of them are just outright like, yeah, we are. like, where does that leave you then?
Yeah.
It's like, what does that mean then? It's just crazy to me.
I always appreciate it when, you ask a pastor a question and they just admit that they don't know.
Yeah, it's
It's
totally
like
fine.
that's fantastic. I was at a party recently. Forgive me if I told you this. I can't remember, but it was actually a party for the magazine that Shannon and I
Oh, okay.
participate in, and everything. Anyway, a wonderful friend of ours is there, and he's the head pastor, or whatever you call it, at the First Methodist here in
Mhm.
downtown Florence, and he is just a wonderful, wonderful human being. And I just love going up to him with, I don't want to call them paradoxes, but just problems.
Does he love
and
you
just
seeing you come up to him? That's the real question.
So I can't remember which one I came up to him with on this one. Oh, actually, I do remember. It was there was a couple of us there, in just a little group, and we're just sitting around. We're just, people are drinking and having a good time, and I just say, guys, what if God doesn't exist without us?
Yeah.
And people look at me like, what? And I was like, well, if you think about it, like, nobody exists. Like, a person on the other side of the world, they don't exist to you until you learn about them specifically. Maybe you meet them on a trip, or you see them on the news for some unfortunate thing that's happening, and then all of a sudden that person is a person. Well, maybe before God created all this, according to that definition, he didn't even exist.
Mm.
So God didn't exist until he created humanity to recognize his existence. And what if that was his need all along, to simply exist?
Great party killer. All right. Totally you.
The pastor friend of mine, he looks at me, he just stares at me for a brief second or two, and he's like, I need a beer. And he walks
I love
away.
this guy. Into this guy.
Oh, yeah.
It's a Simon. That's a Simonism, Eliism. It's just like too deep for the situation. It's like, I mean, if I was there, I would be like, wow, okay, let's talk about it. I'm like, no matter what state I was in, I promise you.
Oh, man.
But you sound like you're talking about quantum entanglement to me, actually.
That's actually where
right?
this
Isn't what it
this
is? The
idea
two
came
things
from.
exist at the same time, but they don't change until the one observes the other thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it changes for that. I was like, this is quantum entanglement, isn't this?
Yeah. That our minds are on the same wavelength, because that is literally where this thought came from. And I have the most surface level knowledge of anything quantum. But the more I learn about, the basic ideas of, quantum physics and things like that, the more I'm just like, wow. I mean, we're at a point at our knowledge, and I said this to somebody very recently, somebody who's a very true, earnest, faithful believer, and they were asking me, why I'm not so high on Christianity at large,
Yeah.
And I looked at them and I said, knowledge is the enemy of belief.
Mm.
So it's like, yeah, I don't believe 90, 95, maybe even up to like 99% of things that are taught in any Christian church.
Yeah.
Because I had the audacity to actually learn about it.
Yeah.
so anyway, and so then you take that with relating that to the quantum stuff.
Yeah.
The more you learn about this stuff, the more you're just like, does anything exist?
Okay, you go another level here. Does anything exist? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
right? You have to think about these concepts, though, right? I mean, you think about it. So this is related. I don't want to go too far because I like where you're going with this, but you may just think about the concept of the Big Bang, right? It's a theory. Why do all these scientists think it's a fact? I don't know why. I just don't understand that. A theory is not a fact, all right? But
it's our best theory.
It's a best theory, right? It's a theory, but it's also a theory that's kind of crazy in many ways too. It's like nothing, like all this came from nothing. Like all this, it was just like, what happened before? What was before that?
Yeah.
No one could tell you that. How are you going to know anyways? It's all a guess. It's like, so one time life came from nothing, but the rest of the time life comes from life. So this one time nothing came from nothing. And then everything else though adheres to life comes from life, a designer, a creator.
Yeah.
But that can't exist. It's like, just all these black holes. A black hole, there's a black hole in the center of every single known galaxy, in the center of it. That's kind of weird. I just think and the black hole, the event horizon exists, light can't escape, and the closer you get to the black hole, gravity changes and time slows down in such a weird way. Yeah. It's almost like made. It's like, but it's it's chance though, that all littered around there. It's just chance that the moon is the exact shape and distance from the Earth that it perfectly goes in front of the sun to create an eclipse. Perfectly. The odds of that are trillions to one. That would actually, it just kind of happened though. It just kind of happened.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, it just, it's 1 in a million, 1 in trillion shots,
I had one day where I lost $5 and I couldn't find it anywhere. And then on the street later that day, I found $5. I mean, stranger things have happened.
Unbelievable happenstances of things. But that knowledge, I think it can lead you away from things, can lead you toward things. Yeah. I think in a lot of religion, it's just this, let's put up the stick here and let's not learn stuff. And that just seems crazy to me. I don't know.
So the funny thing I think about religion though, is that it thinks because science has a limitation there, exactly what you're saying. Religion thinks it has the upper hand now, but it's just like, yeah, but what came before God?
Right.
And then, then they're like, oh, yeah, who made God?
Yeah, exactly.
So then they're stuck. Then they're just like,
yeah.
well, God just always existed. How is that any different from the Big Bang?
That's exactly right.
how do you think you've won up to the Big Bang by saying that, oh, well, God was just always there.
Just there. Like the universe was just always there. Well, it was like the size, as my wife eloquently puts, it was like the size of a pin. And then it just became all of this. And it's like, I don't know, man. It just seems a little ridiculous. It's like my vacuum cleaner didn't just appear one day. I mean, it's like somebody made it. It's like, I don't know.
So I am definitely, it's kind of funny because it's a conversation that we have had often in my own household where we talk about, okay, well, what's the difference between, God making something happen and coincidence?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of people who thinks that God is in charge of everything.
Right.
And, my response to that is that if God is in charge of everything, then he's doing a bad job.
He's doing
a really bad job.
Trump wouldn't be here. Sorry, I didn't want to get it. I'm sorry. I just,
Well, and then they say, well, everybody has their free will. It's like, well, the Bible says that God changes people's hearts.
Yeah.
He hardened Pharaoh's heart. Why didn't he soften Pharaoh's heart? I don't understand. I mean, you're telling me stuff, and you're contradicting things. You say God can do anything, and then in the same breath you say, oh, well, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Because free will. It's like, but we've actually been having some pretty good conversations about free will around here. I think Moses just listened to a Star Talk episode,
Okay.
with Neil deGrasse Tyson. They were talking about free will or the lack thereof, because we are biologically predisposed to do this or that.
Okay.
Down to our most basic instincts of flight or flight, to all the kind of biological DNA stuff that we inherited from everything. So that predisposes us to make decisions the way we do. And it's really funny because I've gotten this several times from different people, and most recently from my own parents, where the question, well, where did you come from?
Everyone wants to know that.
Just because I'm so different from my parents.
Sure.
I'm so different from them. I approach life from a completely different angle. I approach thought from a completely different angle. I approach religion, everything, from a completely different angle than they do. And they approach it from your traditional religious idea, which is an a priori belief that the thing is true. So if you already believe that the thing is true, then you don't have to do your homework and figure out if it's true, because you just already know.
It's already,
I just
the default
know,
mechanism.
Yeah, I just know that Jesus is my savior. We just take that for example. Okay, well, how do you know that? How do you know that any of that actually happened? I just know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't do anything with that.
Well, that's an end game right there. I mean, if they're not going to entertain other things,
Exactly. So I come from a completely different angle with that, where nothing is a priori. No knowledge is. Sometimes you have to work with an a priori idea just because you have to start somewhere, like the Big Bang, maybe.
Sure.
That something existed, no matter how small.
Sure.
So you have to, but then you have to ask the question, but what brought that thing, that pin-sized thing, into existence? What was before that? What came,
right.
But at some point, every system, whether it's science or religion or anything else, it hits a wall where you're just like, well, we have to make an assumption here for any of this to work. For any of it to work.
Well, because humans are meaning-making machines. I mean, we want to make meaning of our existence. And everything at some point comes into like this, well, there's a leap on almost everything. At some point, you ask a question, you may not get the complete answer, and then becomes the leap, is my opinion. And whatever that leap is for you, however tall that is, some of these leaps are gigantic. Some of them are smaller. But if you ask enough questions, you probably get to a point where you're like, I just don't know. I'm not sure. And then you have to just make a decision for that. I'm always okay with that. Even if it may be, some of it's a little nutty, but, but I think if in the end, as long as you've like asked a lot of questions and you kind of get to the wall at the end, and then you go, well, I don't know, and you don't know either. So we're just both going to make a leap on something here.
Yeah. My only problems with anything, religious, scientific, whatever, are making claims without evidence. If you say, I believe God exists, but I have no proof, I completely, now you're speaking my language, because, but now,
correct.
But because you're not trying to say, the world we live in is proof of it, or, I got the job that I applied for, so now I know there's a God. I mean, those kinds of claims are just so bogus to me.
I'm with you, man.
So So that's when we have those conversations in my own house about, okay, what's coincidence? What's good fortune, good luck,
Yeah.
what is, it just happened because that's what happened, versus, God actually stepped in
Yeah.
and actually performed some kind of miracle or
Yeah.
some such thing. So yeah, that's always my thing. If you're gonna make a claim, make sure you can back it up. But for me, if you're having a conversation with me,
Yeah.
because I'm gonna call it out, I'm
For
gonna
sure.
say, okay,
No, I didn't know that, Simon. I was,
yeah, yeah.
all the people in Florence are like, this guy again. Hey, don't talk to this guy. He makes you
Man.
actually like talk about this stuff, and you can't be surfacey with this guy.
Yeah, but if you just freely admit, I don't know,
Yeah.
but this is what I believe. Now it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Totally fine. Hey, I get it. I don't know most things. I have, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Most things.
it's a big world with a lot of knowledge
Yeah.
to be had, and I don't have even a surface level knowledge of most topics that exist in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
So it's a-okay to not know something. It's not okay to claim to know something when you don't know something.
I think we're seeing that a lot.
Yeah.
It is 2024, people. A lot of that's been going on in this last cycle.
Yeah.
I thought you'd find this story interesting. This is the magic of when we talk about this stuff. So I have a client, I won't say who he is. He doesn't listen to the podcast. Maybe he would, I don't know. But I don't want to say his name because he probably wouldn't like if I said who it was.
Sure.
Or he's a pretty well-known guy. But he was talking about like transgenderism.
Mhm.
And he doesn't understand it. Doesn't understand it. And he thinks, you're born biologically this sex, whatever. Why would you want to change that? And he tried to do something, and I think it's a good lesson for our listeners. He tried to do something that a lot of people who have an idea about something do. They try to pull you into their orbit and agree. They want you to be around their orbiting system of it. Yeah, so like he's like, hey, like, isn't that right, Darian? I said, whoa, I hear what you think about it. That's what I said. I hear what you're saying, but that's different from what my thing is. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting moment. And he goes, oh, well, what do you think about it? I said, what does it really matter? They, somebody wants to do what they would like to do. They feel they're expressing themselves as this gender or whatever in their life. Literally has nothing to do with me, like nothing to do with my existence.
You're coming at it from the artist perspective.
Yes. Yes.
From an artist perspective, however you want to communicate yourself to others, whether that's via writing a book, changing your gender,
right,
or any other such way, even just something as simple as getting a tattoo or a piercing. If that's how you're choosing to express yourself, that is the artistic part of you coming forward. So much of art is always trying to express identity.
Yes. Yes.
And so, we're trying to communicate identity via our artistic expression. And if people could just accept that no matter what a person is doing, it is their artistic expression, I think we'd just see things in a lot different. And you'd just be able to say to yourself, well, I don't care for that person's style of filmmaking, so I don't watch their movies.
Right.
I don't care for that person's transgenderism, so I'm not going to become a transgender, but I'm not going to tell them to stop being transgender.
No.
Just the same way I'm not going to tell somebody else to stop making movies.
Right.
So like, you do you. You do you.
And he was very good about it, and I was talking to him, I was just like, and I said, well, what would it be like? I said, well, let me ask you this question. I started getting Simon. I got Simon on him. And I was like, have you ever spent any time around any transgender people? He goes, no. I said, you should probably do that before you form some conclusion about this and like spend some time, because often that's what happens that starts to change the wheel as the exposure machine starts happening. Most of these things are people, they've never spent any time around these people and subjects that they just down or they're just so worked up about. I'm like, well, actually, have you sat down with someone and heard their story and like really got emotional with them? I said, I would suggest you do that. And he was very receptive to it.
That's great. That's fantastic. Those conversations are so valuable.
Yeah. But I won't be pushed into someone else's orbit about their thing, just to like make them feel better about their stance.
That's a classic manipulation tactic. And the person doing it isn't thinking that they're trying to, they're not consciously trying to manipulate you, but but they are, because everybody wants to, manipulate everybody else to agree with them. That's just in our nature as well. We want everybody, I was going to share with you this 1 second. I was just doing some, okay, let me just find my little notes here. And I just thought you would enjoy this. Okay. Yeah. Here it is. Most parents want their children to grow up to be just as ignorant as they are.
Whoa. Just as ignorant?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I mean, think about that for just a brief moment, parents want their children to believe the same things they believe. Politically, religiously, go down the list of whatever people are. Even down to like parents wish kids would listen to their music.
The food that you eat, the type of consumption,
all this kind of stuff. So what that type of parenting is communicating is that the parent has the best ideas and the best knowledge, and they don't want the child to grow past the parent. And that is a way of saying, I want you to remain as ignorant as I am, because as I was just expressing before, I am ignorant of most things.
Yeah,
I just am. Everybody is, very few of us even have a specialty knowledge of anything.
Yeah.
So we're mostly ignorant about everything. And when you start talking to religious people, and I'm just picking on them because, scientists tend to be well-read in their field.
Sure.
So, but if you go to a religious person, and I just had this experience very recently with a very good friend who just admitted to me that they have no idea what the Bible says.
Wow.
They don't read it.
Yeah.
They just go to church.
Yeah.
They don't go home and study.
I mean, that's a lot of people in religion. Honestly, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not talking down to that. If that is how you participate in your religion, that is how you do it. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But once again, we go back to that idea of ignorance, and you say, well, for somebody like me, if I'm going to say, I believe this, if I'm going to go around claiming this is true,
yeah,
then I'm going to have an in-depth knowledge of it.
Yeah.
And once again, unfortunately or fortunately, knowledge is the enemy of belief.
Yeah.
Ignorance is where faith normally stems from. And I hate to say that, because that sounds insulting, but it's really not.
I know what you're saying.
Faith isn't knowledge.
Yeah.
So if you say I have a lot of faith, that means you don't know a lot, really. I mean, honestly, and that's not an insult. That's
I don't think it's an insult. No.
Yeah.
No.
So, and there's certain things you can't know. You can't know how Jesus atoned for your sins.
Yeah.
Like you just can't know that process. There's no way to quantify it, or anything like that. But you can know what the Bible says, because you can actually open it and read it.
Yeah.
You can know a lot of the history of what was going on around the things talked about in the Bible, because we've been making leaps and bounds in archaeological and sociological, studies. So there's a lot of knowledge that we can have and is being completely ignored by most people who profess themselves to be Christian.
Yeah.
And I would only say that disappoints me, because once again, you're going to go around making a lot of claims. And a lot of these claims have to do with telling other people how they should live their lives.
Right.
And if you're gonna do that, once again, you better be able to back it up.
Well, and I think even the sad thing about it is just kind of creating a circle here is that unfortunately a lot of cultural referencing always gets circled back to religious ideology. And so if someone has their hair a certain way, is fluid with their gender, likes these type of shows, you name it, whatever it is, now political parties especially, it all comes back to, well, this centers on the basis of religion and that this is either right or wrong based off of this text or what God said. Instead, it's just like, it's literally mostly just not true. I mean, it's just like, but ignorance but if you want to be ignorant, you're not going to spend time with people who explore things. You're just going to be around other ignorant people who are going to validate your claims. This is what
Loves
ignorance
company.
loves company. Like, right, right. Like, you want to go to some rally and be around a bunch of people who challenge your beliefs? Of course you don't. If you're ignorant, you don't want to be broken. That would destroy the glass house you're living in. It would literally just upend it. You want to be around other people. I'm sorry to say this, but actually I'm not sorry. Of course you want to go to a rally where everyone's wearing stupid looking red hats and wearing the flag in an obscene way and saying the nuttiest stuff you've ever heard. You want to be nutty people want to be around other nutty people, either consciously or subconsciously. You don't want to be around someone who makes you think. And on the other end, I want to defend the other side too with it, because I think that's what we're not just like a one-sided thing here.
No.
On the same instance, I have a lot of problem with scientists who all they care about is proof. Everything has to be proven. Like, listen, some things are just going to be ethereal in life, and that's where the leap comes in. Sometimes there's going to be times that you just can't know everything. It's okay to not know everything. And scientists, I think they fooled themselves into thinking that their whole life is this pursuit of knowing everything, coming to this answer. And I just think it's like, I don't like that either. My words were so powerful. They just
I missed the end of that because it froze.
It froze. No,
I
it's
know
just because my words are so
broke the internet.
powerful.
Yeah.
My words are so powerful.
Yeah.
And I was saying, I don't like that either.
Just the last couple of words of your sentence.
I don't like that either. It's like that there has to be undeniable proof for everything. And I'm not into that idea either, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever done, I'm sure you have, the Enneagram test?
No.
The 1 through 9 personality test?
No, I've done other ones that.
Do you not get into these personality tests?
Oh, no, I teach about this actually in lectures, personality development in humans. But I don't use those because.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and I subscribe to the ocean model of personality development, that personality exists on a spectrum of traits, and that these traits are very malleable over time with people. So you may be more inclined to one area, but not always in every situation that you're just reserved or that you're always outgoing, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But these other testing, that one, they have really no research based into them, and they put you in a box that you're a 1, you're a 5, you must be this, because you're a 3.
Yeah.
Type of thing. So I don't subscribe to that personally.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, but then I do like the Enneagram one, just on the basis of, here's a brief overview of some potential strengths and weaknesses of your personality. Here's how you can prove. Here's how, things to watch out for, and you can change. Hence the malleable part. Like, I can choose to change. And I really believe that. I think in like the what's the one test that called it? You're like a JT whatever, the letters one.
No.
Anyway, my point is, I remember taking that test when I was first married, and then taking that test 15 years later or something like that, and I was a very different. Maybe not very different, but I was different, and I think, and I felt different. I knew I was different. I know that I've changed over time, probably to the disappointment of my wife, but
What's going on
she
here,
thought
man?
she was marrying one thing, and then she's like, oh.
Not Simon, not this guy.
So, yeah. She married Eli and he became Simon.
Yeah, I like the Simon guy.
Yeah.
I'm the Simon guy.
Yeah. But I'm a 5-wing 4, which is designated as the philosopher personality. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
Right. And the five personality has that lust for knowledge. Like, I want to actually know, So I'm one of those scientists that you're talking about, to an extent, where I'm just like, but normally that knowledge is just more about my personal life. It's like, because I grew up a Christian, I've got to know if this stuff, because if you're going to tell me my entire eternity depends on this stuff, I'm gonna know it. And so and luckily for me, I guess, I've come to the conclusion that my entire eternity does not depend on this stuff. But anyway, I only asked because I was curious about what personality you are. So you consider yourself, of course, malleable, but where do you feel like you're at this stage in your life, in your own personality? How do you define yourself in these kinds of ways?
I'll do it in a few ways. In terms of like the Big Five model, the most research model of this, I would say I'm very open. I'm very open-minded. So in the openness category, I'm very I'm very open-minded. I think that I have vacillated between that, but now I'm like super open-minded, very conscientious. I would say I'd be very high in the trait of being conscientious. I would say I have very low neuroticism, but very high emotional regulation. I'm not someone who just flies off the handle. It's not my thing. I think that my agreeableness is probably, if it was in a sliding scale, I'm kind of in the middle because I'm a questioner. So I'm not going to just like be someone who's super high in agreeability would be someone who just is like, you learn this and it's just fact. Like, you don't question it at all. That's not me.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle. I'm kind of in the middle there.
I'd be very low on that. I am a.
You don't say, Simon.
I'm that. Yeah.
You're bottoming out the scale. Simon, how agreeable? Don't ever say. The worst thing you can say about me is I agree with you. I don't agree with this. Even if I think it's right, I want to agree with it. Agree with it.
I feel like I've become the model of skepticism over
He's a skeptical Simon.
which I would like to not pessimism. Do not have a pessimistic outlook on life.
Okay.
But I am skeptical people's claims.
Skeptical of people's claims.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody gives me some information, I'm more like, interesting. I can't wait to research more. I'm not going to agree with you right now, though. Yeah.
And extroversion would be also on that. I would say I'm kind of on the middle of that. I could be very reserved. I can be very extroverted. I'm kind of and I did do many years ago the DISC assessment, which is essentially a personality test. And I came out on the DISC assessment being quad modal, meaning that I'm analytical, I'm emotional, I'm questioning.
You walk on all fours?
Yeah, I literally, yes, I'm an animal. We're all animals. And essentially that I could thrive in almost any environment. Like, I adjust to whatever I'm a part of. I could, whatever type of thing. But I would say my personality is one of like seeking an expansion of enlightenment, I would say, is a big part of my current state.
Hmm.
I even have an enlightenment plan, which I get mocked about from my wife. What's on the
Did you make
enlightenment
it in the
plan?
form of a poster?
Yeah, no, not
You've
yet. It
got
was
it
like,
on the
oh, was that
fridge.
on the enlightenment plan? I'm
Yeah.
like, it's a serious plan. I actually wrote it out and everything. And I just feel
That
like
is so funny.
I'm
Isn't
just
it great how our spouse is
uh
just our words?
just rip us, man. Just rip us to shreds. Like, I'm on the enlightenment
I want to
plan.
hear more about this plan, though. I mean,
Well, I think that it's I'm growing. I'm constantly growing. I
yeah.
feel like I want to be growing. And
Is
part
it
of
anything like Jenny Craig?
no, Simon, it's not like Jenny Craig. I think it's just part of a plan of like, it's really just a plan about becoming a better person. And, part of that enlightenment plan was like, I've seen things, I've heard things, and then I want to keep moving forward in things that really feel part of the plan of becoming a better human. Like, it was just very difficult for me to keep eating meat after knowing, searching, and seeing a lot about factory farming and also about like what happens in the sea. It
Yeah.
was I had too much exposure. You could say too much. I had enough exposure that part of my enlightenment plan was like, well, if I want to become more self-actualized, I have to actually start moving towards these things. And so not eating meat or seafood was part of the
Mm-hmm.
enlightenment plan. It's literally part of the plan. It's like, well, I'd be a hypocrite if I
Mm.
did not move towards this and now have the knowledge of it. Why aren't I moving towards it? So it's like that stuff, or I have a sound bath all the times going down here, and a sound bath is part of my kind of meditation and centering myself. The plan is amazing. I'm just gonna be honest with you; it's pretty amazing. I love the plan.
That's fantastic. I mean, you said the word, hypocrite, and um, I've never considered what I've been doing the enlightenment plan, which I like
Yeah.
much better. But I've considered what I've been trying to do in my life for about 15 years or so, the anti-hypocrisy plan, where I've
Mm,
tried to rid hypocrisy from my life.
yeah.
Uh, and that's I think a skeptic really, really revels in the anti-hypocrisy plan because um, the hypocrisy of saying I know something when it's a matter of faith really rubbed me the wrong way.
Mm,
I think that's what led to this. So in my church culture, every first Sunday of the month is reserved in our main meeting for a testimony meeting. It's basically an open mic for anybody to go up there and say, I know Jesus is my savior. I know, such and the other thing. And I just remember sitting there somewhere in my mid 20s and thinking, does anybody know? I mean, they're standing there saying, I know. And they're crying and they're weeping and they're emotional and they just know. And the very infamous word or verbiage is, I know with every fiber of my being. It's like, so your toenails know that Jesus is your savior? I don't understand.
Simon.
I don't get it. So that became a real sticking point for me. And I freely admit that I have a real problem. I get stuck on these kinds of things, you know, and I just can't move past them.
Mm,
And I will just dwell and dwell and dwell and think and think and think about uh, probably think is an unhealthy level.
mm.
I know my I know my wife would think does think that because she's just like, I don't know why you just think about this stuff. I don't know why you're just it's like, you know, we had a conversation like that just the other day. and I was saying some stuff, and she had a kind of a visceral reaction to something that kind of attacked, didn't kind of, but most Christian people who follow any kind of Judeo-Christian would believe. And I was just like, well, prove balls in your court. I've made a claim. I've made some statements that back up my claim. If you would like to rebut my claims, go for it. And she hated that. I mean, she just, and I didn't like that. Of course, you're having a conversation. I was basically like, show me one way in which, I'm wrong. Just go ahead, show me. It's totally fine. But you do have to show me. You can't just tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. Simon, you get yourself in trouble, man. You know that?
Conversation. I know. But in that conversation, I was just trying to help Shannon see my perspective from this. And I told her, it's like, I'm fine if I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong. In fact, just so anybody listening understands, I do not have some huge ego like, oh, I know all this stuff and I know everybody else is wrong. Where this kind of conversation comes from is from realizing throughout my entire adult life that I've been wrong. So by continually being shown or proven wrong, I've been able to develop higher or more educated ways of thinking about these things. But it didn't come from, oh, I was just always right about this stuff all along. It's that at all. I'm no genius, on it comes from a curiosity, and via my own curiosity being proven in all the stuff to believe.
Yeah. Simon, you are a genius, man.
And I found that very exciting.
My friend. You're a genius. You're a genius. Your genius. I'm going to tell you what your genius is in. Your genius is in your skepticism. That's where your genius is. But it's not it's not a malevolent skepticism. It's not like, oh, I'm out to get you and make you look foolish, for not knowing this. That's not it. It's just your genius is in just actually doing it, actually stepping out and having the courage to question things. That's the genius in you. I see that.
I appreciate that. And I will accept that. And just, but with the reiteration that this was not like, none of the knowledge or the things that the knowledge that I've been able to acquire over the years, none of that was just in. And I think that's an important point to always make, because I think a lot of people, they just get wowed by, oh, wow, you know so much about, such and such topic. How do you know so much? It's like, well, I took the time.
Yeah, you took the time
to read and study. I mean, and that's all it is. Like, I prioritized that over other things.
Yeah.
When somebody else was watching, Full House on Netflix, I was reading the history of Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
So it was just what we choose to prioritize in it, but it had nothing to do with, oh, I was blessed with some kind of genius intellect or anything like that. It was just how we prioritize our time. That's all it is.
Like Simon's like, I'm going to kind of downgrade my intelligence here and just tell you, I just looked at stuff.
I mean, really, honestly, we all just stand on the shoulders of giants, right? We all just depend on knowledge of specialists at some point, unless we're out there in the field, finding,
Right.
the artifacts firsthand, then we are relying on, the work of other people for our own knowledge. And so, And we have the blessing that, and this is something I like to bring up with people as well, because sometimes Christians are really bad about this. They're really bad about being like, oh, scientists say, or oh, archaeologists. It's like, no. It's like, well, most archaeologists working in the field of biblical studies are true believers. They are trying to find evidence that the Bible is and the things talked about within it are true.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they find evidence that directly contradicts what the claims of the Bible, and they have to live with that, report that, and just say, hey, that doesn't mean Jesus isn't your savior. That doesn't mean God doesn't exist. It means that people are people. You know,
people are people. You just go back to the drawing board on it. You know what I mean? People are people. It's the same thing like we're talking about with, you know, like the James Webb Telescope. One of my favorite things to discuss. I love talking about the James Webb Telescope. And the James Webb Telescope has refuted so much of science of what we know about the universe. And particularly that now that there are galaxies that should not even exist, and from 13 billion years ago, like mature galaxies that should not exist this long ago, challenges how old the universe is and like what the hell is happening out there. That's okay. It's totally cool. You know, that there are structures in space that should not exist.
It's exciting.
That's exciting. That's really cool because we're literally a speck of dust on this planet. And how could we ever know all this stuff about the vastness, the infinite nature of the universe? You and I are going to die. You're not going to know. I'm not going to know. But there's some cool stuff that we're gaining knowledge of from it. We don't have to know everything. But I think we're going through this, if we're doing it right, both religious folks, scientists, people are both seeking answers to something. And hopefully you are seeking the answer and not just going, yeah, I know. I just know. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I know you got to F in that class.
Imagine a scientist saying, imagine an astrophysicist just saying, I just know that, you know, whatever principle is right, you know. And it's just like, well, show me the evidence. I just know it. You know, it's like, yeah, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't.
That's like stuff your kid does, you know, I mean.
Yeah. And I know that not all scientists are created equal. Sure. There's a lot of bad scientists out there.
No doubt about it.
Doing bad work and making bad claims, you know, and that's undeniable. But good scientists love it when they're wrong. It's the most exciting moment.
Yes.
Because, I mean, if you're an astrophysicist and you're realizing what the evidence of the James Webb Telescope, what it implies, nothing could be more exciting.
Yes.
We've just opened up a whole new universe of knowledge that we don't have.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And what could be more exciting than that?
Right. What's scary about that? Okay, so you had some thoughts, they weren't right. Okay, so what?
That is the fundamental fear of the religious person, though.
Right.
Oh, I had some beliefs and they weren't right. Oh no. You know, it's like, well, it's okay. It's okay, really.
Okay.
You know, if you're a Christian and you are reading the words of Paul, he's wrong about a ton of things. Saying Paul said this. I'm saying Paul, you know, get like a really big example. Paul didn't think he was going to die before he returned.
Right.
He thought he'd be around for the second coming of Jesus and that he would be one of the ones to be changed in a twinkling of an eye to his resurrected form, and he would not taste of death. Think about Paul waiting to be executed.
It's true.
That's a little dark, but it's just like, whoops.
Whoopsie daisy.
Some of that epistle there. Uh, and that's just what I mean, where it's just like, it's okay for Paul to be wrong. He's just a dude.
And just a dude.
Yeah.
We're just guys.
I mean, I'm sure we're gonna be wrong. 20 years from now, somebody's gonna come upon this podcast and be like, whoa, those guys had no idea what they were talking about, because since then we discovered this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So that's totally fine. The thing that's not fine is reading Paul, knowing he's wrong, and saying he's right anyway.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
That's what's
totally
not fine.
That's not fine. There's a big question out there, though. This is one of the bigger questions for our audience. It's a big question. I'm going to tell you what the question is. You ready?
I'm ready.
Question is, when Simon and Darian meet, will there be the same magic?
It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, we're gonna.
Look at you.
I think it's gonna be even better.
I think so too.
In person, I think we're gonna have a lot of laughs.
I think we're gonna have.
I really do.
And I think the conversation is gonna get deeper. It's gonna extend deeper because of the presence. But it was funny. My wife said, she goes, "What if you guys don't like each other?" And I don't know. I said, "We'll still have a good time."
Yeah,
Plenty of good times with people
that'll be really
like.
funny to realize. Oh, I don't really like you. Yeah.
Can you just get in that screen for me? I honestly can't see that happening, but whatever.
Yeah. I liked you a lot better when you were just like, from your chest up. I don't
want to see any I don't want to see any more of you. I really just don't want to see. I actually told my wife that. I said, although I am looking forward to one of these 2-3 hour meal preparation deals here. I mean,
oh yeah, you'll be in for a treat. I'll fatten you up.
Yeah,
you don't think you can gain weight? I'll prove you wrong.
No way, man.
Yeah. Once you taste my mac and cheese, you'll put on 5 pounds.
What is wrong? Once you taste my mac and cheese, I love going from divinity to mac and cheese. There's something special.
My mac and cheese is divine.
It is divine. That'll be a tall order, because I generally don't like mac and cheese. I literally generally don't like it. So I didn't even like it as a kid. Did not like it at all. I mean, I like it sometimes as an adult.
Now you're talking about like real homemade mac and cheese.
Yeah. I don't like too much cheese. I don't like it when it's too cheesy.
You know what? Go F yourself.
You're like, wait a minute. That's exactly how I make it. So, I mean, there's a lot to live up to here. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I can cook a lot of other things. It doesn't have to be the mac and cheese.
I'm not eating.
But I'll cook for you some of my specialties, which are all vegetarian, of course. So,
that's great. We're in alignment here.
Yeah.
We're becoming more like each other. See.
Yeah, pretty soon I'm gonna do like a fade haircut. And you're gonna dye all of your hair blonde, not just the front.
I'll become a Viking like you. Yeah. You know what? You're just proving a lot. I have this lady coming on my podcast, and it's all about, she's an economist, but she uses her economist mindset to help people find love. So for her, love is about creating the odds in your favor. The results could be mixed, but create the odds to be in your favor. And she said a lot of the research in love is that the longer you're with your partner, you become more alike. This doesn't sound like you.
I might have told you this recently, but Moses and I were in the kitchen, and he asked me just point blank. It's like, how do you and Mom stay together?
It's so funny, man.
He's like, you guys are so different. I was like, yeah, but the thing is, it's like, I'm not trying to change her.
No.
It's like sometimes, we'll be debating a topic and maybe I'm trying to change her mind on a topic,
Yeah.
but I'm not trying to change her.
Yeah.
For one thing, that is completely outside of my ability or my desire,
Yeah.
to change another person. In fact, Shannon and I were actually talking about this the other night, and we were talking about the moral obligation of knowledge, basically. And I said, I feel like my moral obligation of knowledge, whatever knowledge I have on whatever topic it might be, is to share that knowledge. But it's never to make anybody, it's never to convert anybody or to change them. You do with that knowledge what you will. If I share with you that, Paul was wrong about this stuff and you still want to say Paul is right, that's you. That's totally fine. I have no obligation to change your mind on that.
Yeah.
But if the topic comes up and I know and I have a specific knowledge that could be shared, that could enhance somebody else's life for the better, I do think I have a moral obligation to share that knowledge. Or for the worse, maybe I'm going to ruin that person's life. I have a moral obligation to share that knowledge.
There he goes. That's the guy. He finally showed himself. The play wrecker, the playwright destroyer.
Yeah.
There's that guy's in there too.
We closed on the show I was just in the other week, and it was very sweet. All the cast and crew, lots of people crying and hugging, and it's like, oh, I can't believe all this is coming to an end. This is our last show, whatever. And I text Shannon and I was telling her about it, and I said, it's really sweet, but I almost feel like I had any of those emotions. I just don't. I'm just glad we're done. I'm just glad to get my life back, And I love all those people. I loved working with them. I loved performing those shows with them. And then I just wanted to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Simon,
I have a different feeling about this guy. So trying to piece out of here. Deuces.
Yeah. I mean, it was no secret that I did not like the show itself, which is a very well-known show. Lots of people love it. Sure. It's called Company. It's by Sondheim, and it's experienced a revival very recently. And so hey, kudos to everybody who loves this show and everything. I gave them my best, even when I hated what I was saying. I just hated what I was saying.
Man.
Hated the words coming out of my mouth.
Oh man.
And I did change a line or two because
of course you did.
Sondheim is not a great dialogue writer.
I'll talk to Shannon about this stuff with you. I'll be like, what's going on with Simon, man? It's so funny. She'll be like, anyways.
she'll just roll her eyes and she'll be like, oh, we don't want to talk about that.
It was funny because she introduced me to a guest for the show.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, I met Darian, blah, blah, and he instantly became BFFs with my husband. And they all, I could sense there's something in there.
The animosity.
Yeah, I felt there's something. It's like, oh, it's about 80s movies or religion. It's like,
yeah.
I felt it, Simon. I felt
it. No, Shannon loves our friendship. She just loves it. She loves that I have somebody else to go and talk to this stuff about, because she doesn't want to hear about it. She just, she honestly doesn't, and we were having a little debate the other day about, that religious topic I mentioned. She at one point, she's just like, I'm bored. Let's talk about something else. I was like, okay, cool.
It's like this thirst for knowledge. You're always digging deeper. Shannon's like, she
doesn't want to hear about it anymore, but my mind just hits the rabbit hole, and I've just got to see it all the way through. I don't need to talk it out all the way through, and that's totally fine. And I normally don't with anybody, because I realize that a lot of the things that I'm interested in thinking about, most people just are not, and that's totally fine. I get it. It's cool, but
Yeah.
I will see that thought through to its
Yeah.
until I can't go past it, until I hit that big bang where
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just like,
right.
well, that
No,
now we're
I don't
here and
know.
that's it. Yeah.
Well, I always enjoy it. I thirst, and we're very similar in this mindset. I enjoy having these type of conversations because I don't know. Listen. I could shoot the breeze with the best and talk about silly stuff, but where I feel like I really thrive in my existence in life is this type of stuff. And I just think it's interesting. I don't know. I like going deeper on like everything. And even like how a cookie's made or something. They're like, oh, let's talk about that. How does that work? Like, it's just
I'm gonna
interesting
make
to
you
me.
my brown bug chocolate chip cookies when we're here.
Ooh, ooh, man, I
It's
love
really funny
cooking.
that you mentioned it because I don't make a lot of cookies. I'm kind of off sugar and things like that right now,
Yeah.
but I wanted to like make a cookie that I actually like.
Okay.
And so I delved into watching lots of videos and reading
Yeah.
lots of different recipes and the whys and wherefores that people would do certain things and change different ratios and all
Yeah.
the kind of stuff. And I came up, at the end of it, it was it was just two really simple steps of cookie making process. Well, I guess because I would have never refrigerated the chocolate chip cookies. Most people just make the dough and put it right in the oven.
Yeah.
So the three steps that I came up with, and anybody can steal this if you want. You brown the butter, and then you have to wait for it to cool, so it's a bit of a process. Then you mix your dough just the same way you would, just your basic chocolate chip cookie dough. And then you refrigerate it, and then you cook it hot. Cook it at 400 instead of normally they say
Wow.
350.
Okay.
Cook them at 400, and then you're going to get the crispy outside with the gooey inside.
Ooh. Ooh. So good.
Yeah.
Just
So
have my
those were
products
the
ready for me, okay?
yeah. So after all that research, those were the three basic things that I came
Okay.
away with. I was just like, and that has changed the chocolate chip cookie game, my
Oh
friend.
my gosh,
My
I'm so
goodness.
into this.
And they're so rich and good that even when I make them, I don't need to eat 5. I only need like 1 or 2. And then you're just like, that was perfect. And I don't need any more.
It's not happening for me. I could tell you that.
I told you, I'm going to make you gain weight. So I'm going to make you
No,
the
yeah,
cookies.
because listen,
Yeah.
when I say I want my products, I think you know what else I mean.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because I prefer to eat like that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have 20 of those things. I'm not worried about it at all, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a lot I'm worried about these days, man. The enlightenment plan is fully on.
That's good. That's good. I love that. I love that. And you guys have settled in. You guys are all
Yeah,
good.
we're all settled in, all good. My
You've
next
been
step,
living there
like
how long now?
Since
Yeah.
June.
So it's
And everybody's good. My wife is doing she's going back to school to become a vet tech to do the things she really wants to do in life. And we finally
interesting.
got to a point where I could, just support the family myself, which has been a long time journey for me. I wanted to do that, not for some weird patriarchy thing, I want her to be able to do what she wants to do
That's
in life, type of
fantastic.
thing.
That's fabulous.
My daughter's doing great, but and then I'm actually looking for a therapist, not because I feel like I have issues and stuff like that. It's just part of the enlightenment plan. It
That's
really is,
great.
just to have other people to bounce ideas off of, that are professionals, to just get different points of view about my life.
Yeah.
It's all part of the plan, Simon. I'm telling you.
I love it. I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I have a problem with therapists wherein I have too big of an ego.
Oh my God,
Seriously.
this is unbelievable.
And I'll go to a therapist and be like, I already know everything you're saying. Why am I even here?
This is unbelievable. Too big of an ego.
Yeah. It's like, you got nothing for me. It's like, I've already thought of all this stuff.
You're the best. You know that? It's pretty funny. Actually pretty funny. I don't know. It's really it's actually really funny, man.
I mean, imagine being the therapist though, and having the
Oh.
person you're talking to is like, I know all this.
This is unbelievable, actually. You start questioning the therapist's credentials. Really? What about the school you went to? I looked it up. I'm not so sure about this. And they're like, why am I being put on the defensive with this guy?
Yeah. All of a sudden they're on the couch and I'm in their chair.
My goal is literally to be in there and not like when they ask me, like, what issues do you want to work on? And be like, this isn't a cocky thing, but like, I don't really have any hangups, honestly. I just think it'd be interesting to do it as part of my plan, as something just to have a different perspective. I know you're not getting a lot of this from people coming in here, but like, it's part of my plan.
What will be interesting is to see if issues do come up, though.
And I think they will. No, I think they will. But I also, it's just part of like my wife thinks it's funny. I said, I'm an improvement machine. I'm always improving myself. I am the software upload. I want to upload. I want to increase the hardware, storage. I just think it's important for me to become, I'm all about becoming myself. And I feel like the more knowledge I get, the more experiences. Like me coming to see you was part of a huge plan I have this year called a living tribute plan. I don't think I told you this. I don't think I
No.
But it's another phase in the enlightenment plan, which is to not wait till people are going to be dead to tell them how you feel about them. And which is why, like,
so you want to tell me to my face?
Yeah, I want to tell you to your face.
I hate your guts.
And I've been doing this all year. I've been visiting people, telling them how I feel about them, being very emotional with them. And because I just think publicly telling them how important they are to me. I do this with you on here, but to your face, I want you to feel the sincerity.
Wow. It's going to be so uncomfortable.
And I'm
going to bring out my skepticism. And
I know. I don't know why you want to do that with something like that, honestly, Simon. Such a nice thing.
I'm going to be like, yeah, prove it.
Like, I got on a plane and showed up there. That's proof. I spent my own money. I came here to see you to Alabama. Who's going to Alabama?
Nobody's going to Alabama, especially after that one crazy lady talking about.
That's what I'm Katie Britt. Good job,
Katie
guys.
Britt, my
good
gosh.
job there. I mean,
as if Alabama didn't already have an image.
You know what? IVF, good job. Katie Britt, amazing. Yeah, you guys are just really kicking the dirt here.
Oh my gosh.
I told a few people I was going to Alabama, and one of my clients, who's a therapist, goes, "Why would you go there to Alabama?" I said, "I have a really good friend there." She goes, "But seriously, it's Alabama, though." I said, "No, my friend's bigger than this whole thing. I'm like, I'm not going there to like learn about the state." I think I already know enough about the state.
Gosh, yeah. But you know what? I mean, Alabama is a great example of the United States in general, and I think the world as a whole, where it survives people like Katie Britt.
Yeah, no, it will. It will. Yeah, a
psycho. Because what I'm trying to say is like Alabama has a history,
for sure,
very well-known history, and Alabama continues to struggle in a ton of ways. Substance abuse, education, all these things, poverty. But and frankly, oftentimes I can't even take the way people talk around here. Just the way they speak. I'm just like, man, could you sound any just like nails on a chalkboard?
Sure.
Just even the tone of their voice. So I'm not sitting here saying I'm Alabama's champion. What I am saying is that the ratio of wonderful, amazing people that I've met here in Alabama versus assholes is way in favor of wonderful
people. Sure. You're just fighting a public, a PR nightmare.
Yes.
Massive. So this was happening. I'm doing this all throughout the year, and you are part of the living tribute of people I'm meeting this year. And
this is wonderful.
Yeah, this is
part of something.
You're part of my enlightenment plan. I have written this down. I'm going to see Simon to tell him how I feel about him. This is a whole thing with me, man. Like, I'm serious about it. Very serious.
I love it. I love that you do that. I love how similar we are. We have different approaches to these things. We have different, goals within the goal, but you and I are basically on the same life
Yes.
path
Yes.
of always trying to improve ourselves,
Yeah.
whether it be mentally, emotionally, spiritually,
Yes.
physically, all these different aspects of the wellness circle. We're always trying to figure out ways that we can improve ourselves because we know intrinsically that the only way to improve the world around us is by improving our own self.
Bingo. That's a great way to end it. Simon, the gym master. That was amazing. Man, I'm going to use that. That was beautiful, man. That was literally beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for being my friend. Seriously. I never
you
had a
as
lot of
well.
friends growing up. Honest truth, man. I'm not really someone who like seeks out friendship. It just kind of like, I do my thing and I kind of collide with people and I just kind of know people I want to spend time with. You're one of those people, man. You're a special
You as
person.
well. You as
Thank
well.
you so
I can't
much.
wait to hang out in person. It's
I
going to
think
be
it's gonna be great,
fabulous.
man. I really do. I'm just joking about it being terrible. I mean, there's like a 1% chance. It could be.
It's going to be fabulous even if it's terrible.
There you go.
It's
That's a good attitude.
going to be so funny.
That's a good attitude. It will be funny. It'll definitely be funny. But thank you so much for being in my life. I'm serious. I really, it's a real honor. Seriously. I don't have a lot of friendship in my life, and the people I am friends with, they're very special to me. You're incredibly important in my life. You should know that. You're going to hear more of that in person.
Feeling is very mutual.
Thank you, man. Well, listen, gotta run. I actually have another conversation.
All right.